Full disclosure, I'm a Mavs fan. The Mamba was the enemy. Okay? We hated Kobe. But we hated
I'm a Rockets
Kobe.
fan. It didn't stop me from making sure Kobe was top 10.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for those that joined us. If you haven't seen it, if you're just seeing this one, there's one before this, so you should go watch the one before this. Or if you don't have time for that, just listen really quick, and I'm going to go through this list. So what we're doing is we're going through these two gentlemen's opinion on who the 20 greatest players in NBA history are. So they're actually really, really similar, which kind of should make sense, but there are a few differences. There's one guy that has been mentioned on one person's list that has not been mentioned yet on the other person's list. Interesting. We're going to see how that goes. Oh, two. Yeah, two. Two on that list. Sorry. It's the two biggest spreads that we have. So at 20, we've got David Robinson and Moses Malone. George, and then 19, I'm just going to read through them, actually. Know it that I'm reading two, and I'm going to read the same. If it's the same name, I'm going to read it twice. George Milken and Allen Iverson. Kevin Garnett and Oscar Robinson and Jerry West. There's a big separation here. Dirk Nowitzki, which honestly surprised me that they actually picked him in the same spot. Kevin Durant and Julius Erving. We only see Julius Erving once in this past list, so we'll see where that difference is. Jerry West and Kevin Garnett, so there's a lot of a difference there. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Hakeem Olajuwon at 12.
You are disowned.
And Steph Curry at 12 on the other side. So those two big names to kind of figure out. It's actually fun. They each have one name, but the other one is really vastly underrated or overrated, depending on the case may be. Julius Erving and Hakeem Olajuwon. Those are the two biggest of all their lists. Those are the two biggest position differences we've got. I think it's the only one that really kind of comes across those things. We've got a few more differences, though, this go around. So we deliberately split this here because they each have the same guys for 10 and 11. However, they have them flipped. And they're very interesting that these two guys are right next to each other and flipped in these two lists. I thought we were actually only going to stop at 11, but no, this is too beautiful and poetic. We have to keep these two guys together. So that's why we took a break where we did. So, all right. So say this. We're going to go to Jordan first, but say your picks right away at the first time, okay? So who do you have at 11? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Kobe and Shaq are together again. One is better than the other, and we will hear why.
It's obviously Kobe, you idiot.
Okay, part of this is peak versus career. I'm going to read off Kobe's accomplishments that I had for my top 100 when we posted on the website. Kobe Bryant, 6'6", Hall of Fame wing for the Lakers, 5-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 8-time All-Star, 15-time.
8-time?
18. Sorry.
Put some respect on his name.
18-time All-Star, 15-time All-NBA, 12-time All-Defense. LOL. That is literally in the text. I put LOL. 2-time scoring title, and then I go through his career stats. Full disclosure, I'm a Mavs fan. The Mamba was the enemy. Okay? We hated Kobe. But we hated
I'm a Rockets
Kobe.
fan. It didn't stop me from making sure Kobe was top 10.
Look, 10 and 11 are not that different. They're not that different. But look, incredible. Like, I'm not saying that Kobe was bad. I do think that the 12 all defensive teams is a joke. Absolutely. I mean, sorry, I don't know what dirt Kobe had on all defensive team voters, but he was not.
What other
top 12.
guards were there?
Well, for one, Tony Allen at that time was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, but there's 4 guard spots. You're telling me there's 4 guards. You're telling me there's 4 guards every year for those 12 years that were better defenders than Kobe?
For the whole year, yes. Kobe was awesome in the playoffs. That's the other reason I dropped Kobe. Kobe in the playoffs was a completely different player than Kobe in the regular season. Okay?
And yet everyone wants to give Kawhi Leonard props for that.
I know. This is the whole reason we have this list right now, that we're arguing this list, is because everyone wants to give Kawhi credit for that. But
81 did happen in the regular season.
it did happen in the regular season, but it also happened against the Raptors. Like, come on, dude.
Did Shaq score 81?
Look, Shaq played against the Raptors where his team was so bad they almost lost and he had to drop 81.
Look, that is called winning character. That is called winning character. And
One spot, dude. It's one spot. Look, for me, it's Shaq's peak over Kobe's whole career. That's what I ended up doing. I don't do that all the time, but for me, because I feel like there are so many parts of Kobe's career resume that are overinflated because the myth of Kobe was better than the player of Kobe. I have him below Shaq for that reason. So, Jonathan?
the myth of Shaq is amazing.
So can I start with? I'll start with Shaq since
Instead of rebuttaling Kobe, how about I start with Shaq?
All right.
Shaq is incredible. Can you pull up these career accolades for me, and I'll just cheat off your sheet. And so, a 4-time champion, 3-time Finals MVP, an MVP, 15-time All-Star, 14-time All-NBA, only a 3-time All-Defense, Rookie of the Year, two-time scoring title, and 50th anniversary team. Here's the thing. There's a certain white Canadian dude that is now the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets that stole an MVP from each of these dudes.
you could also argue that Allen Iverson doesn't deserve his MVP and Shaq did.
Yeah, I mean, you can easily argue both of these dudes deserve at least one. The fact that their MVP numbers are as low as they are really weird.
Mm-hmm.
That this is where the ability to win an MVP for these two does not match up to their ability on the court. And we'll hit that with some more guys higher on the list, or in Jordan's case, lower on the list. When we talk about Hakeem and Tim Duncan, those are some guys that their number of MVPs don't reflect how dominant they actually were.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Shaq's great player, one of the single most dominant physical force of anyone in the live TV era.
Yes.
You can, and I probably will argue that I think Wilt Chamberlain was probably more dominant compared to the people in his time. And I will argue that later on. But, man, Shaq dunking so hard on someone that they fall over and then throw the ball at his head because they were embarrassed was awesome. But at the same time, a certain person that you have 2 spots lower than Shaq whipped his butt in a finals.
Okay, but Shaq was like 3 years old.
How many games did they win in the finals? 0 against Hakeem.
Okay.
That's not the argument.
That's not the argument.
Anyway,
the argument is he's better than Kobe, and he's not.
Shaq is not better than Kobe. You agree?
I said that backwards.
You agree. You agree. Kobe is better than Shaq.
Yeah.
Aha. No. Shaq had the huge personality. The weird thing is Kobe didn't have the massive persona while Shaq was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Shaq leaves, Kobe's persona blows up.
Kobe is the only person on the top 20. One of two people on the top 20 to miss the playoffs in his prime.
3. I mean, it depends on if the other one is Kareem or LeBron.
Oh, is that really prime LeBron? But okay, sure.
Okay, LeBron not in his prime is better than almost everyone else in their prime.
That's true. That's fair. Okay, so we'll say that.
So you can even
They were all playing for the Lakers.
I know something about getting hurt playing for the Lakers.
You can also argue MJ missed one in his prime as well. But so here's the only thing that I would give.
Yeah.
Here's one that I will give when we compare the Shaq and Kobe. And again, this is not me making taking a stance at one way or the other. I feel the legend of Kobe is bigger than the legend of Shaq.
There is no child in America that is going to shoot a paper ball at a basket and yell Shaq.
But if I'm thinking about playing a game against someone, and I think it kind of comes back to those later seasons, and maybe it was just because of how bad those Lakers teams were. And it kind of goes, even I brought up the scoring 81. Yeah, he had to score 81, which as an opposing team, you almost got to a point where you could stop caring about Kobe. Because you know what? Kobe's going to go off for 60. We're still going to win by 15.
Yep.
Even when Kobe goes up. So you could actually, as an opposing team, you could not care about Kobe. I can't think of a team other than those couple teams where Shaq played like 15 games total in that season.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, if Shaq is in the lineup, you better be planning for Shaq.
If you look at one of the reasons that the Celtics Big Three did not win another championship was Shaq getting injured. Because if you look at their record when they had Shaq in the lineup, even though this is ancient, decrepit Shaq, they were unstoppable when Shaq was playing.
Like I'm just thinking of times like when he was here in Phoenix playing for the Suns. You still game plan Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
You got Mike D'Antoni was their coach. They weren't a threat.
Doesn't threat or not, you still game planned Shaq. And again, you eventually got to a point where I feel like you didn't. Now again, maybe not have been Kobe's fault, but the rest of the Lakers were that bad. But then again, Shaq was playing for garbage teams. You still game plan Shaq. You got to a point.
By the way, we're gonna get to someone who took garbage teams and won back-to-back championships later that a certain person has at 12.
But I'm not saying one way or the other of what I have. Shit, I'm the moderator. I don't have to make a choice.
No, part of the reason that I have Shaq so high is let me read this. The summer of my freshman year in college, I was working a camp, and a group of middle schoolers were talking about basketball when I overheard one of them say probably the stupidest thing ever. Shaq was okay, but Yao was probably better.
Whoa.
Now, firstly, I feel very proud of myself that I did not punch that child in the face. I wanted to, but I didn't. That's the problem that I think we have with Shaq, is that people now don't realize how good Shaq was.
As a Rockets fan who had to hope for Yao to be healthy, this is painful.
So we can move on now, but that's just what I wanted to leave it with Shaq.
Oh my.
So.
Oh my. Yao better than
Whew. I know, right?
So this one is going to be a nice, easy one. So go ahead and say who you guys have at 9. Go ahead, just say it at the same time.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean,
the Big Dipper.
I mean, dude, if you average 50 points for a season, you scored 100 points in a game. Like literally almost every single game record ever in the history of the NBA belongs to Wilt Chamberlain. Most minutes played in a season, everything. And it's because it is like, for instance, if you drop Shaq in the WNBA, I mean, that's what his numbers look like. I mean, it's crazy.
Here's the thing about Wilt is there are some big misconceptions that people have. One is that he played against all 6'6" white guys. That's not true. There were at that time there were 10 teams, and of the 10 teams there were 7 Hall of Fame centers that he played against. Now, the 100-point game, the tallest person he played against was 6'6". So the 100-point game is an aberration because there were so many injuries that happened. In fact, the one dude who was 6'6" fouled out in the first half. So it was bad. I do grant
Hey,
that the
Mike D'Antoni, take notes. When you play a whole bunch of guys under 6'6", you get blown out.
The thing about Wilt is he was a bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic Shaq. He was taller than Shaq. He was faster than Shaq. He was an Olympic level athlete for high jump. He was also an All-American for both distance and sprinting. He was also one of the strongest people ever. And when he was at Kansas, the coach at Kansas had decided that they were eventually going to move to 12-foot hoops, so they needed to start practicing on those anyway. Wilt was dunking on 12-foot rims as a 19-year-old. Just saying. Wilt was incredible. Now, that being said, the other thing that gets lost about Wilt is Wilt was not a strength-based player. Wilt was a skilled finesse player. Most people think that he just dominated and he just backed people down like Shaq. That was illegal in the 60s. An offensive player could not initiate contact. So therefore, you could not back someone down. Wilt instead used fadeaways. He used hook shots. He had a fantastic fadeaway, actually. It was he would do a fadeaway bank shot, and that was how he scored most of his shots. And then he would do that in a finger roll. He was very, very skilled for what he did. And he was the second best defensive player of his era. Wilt was incredible. He was a dominant force on both sides of the ball. I don't really think I need to defend anymore, but Wilt was awesome.
As an aside, before I get into my Wilt stuff, that whole offensive players not being allowed to initiate contact, that would make the game so much more fun to watch.
Your team would never win another game.
No. Harden would change how he plays.
Another point.
Harden
would average 4 points a game.
Harden would change how he plays, and Harden's not even the worst one for it. The worst one, he's not even the worst one on our team for it. He's not even the worst one on our team for it. It's Russell Westbrook. And then Giannis does it bad. Jimmy Butler does it bad. There's a whole bunch of people that
the thing is, Harden counts on getting that foul when you initiate contact as the offensive player to get the majority of his points.
Lucas just over here hiding in a corner, hoping no one notices him.
No one accuses him of doing the same thing. No,
I've said my piece.
There is not an all-star. That's kind of my point. There's not an all-star that doesn't do that.
Right.
There's not an all-star that doesn't do that for at least 80% of that all-star's free throws.
Could be.
And I don't like it. I hate it. It's not fun to watch basketball. Going back into Wilt, the only reason he's not higher on this list is because Bill Russell stacked his team.
And not just that, like Wilt did lose a lot of finals on plays he was not involved in, and also every time he had a good coach, he had a Hall of Fame coach for 3 years in his career. He went to the finals all 3 of those years. He won twice. Anytime he didn't have a Hall of Fame coach, it was really bad because they were just like, well, give Wilt the ball, hope he figures it out. Like, okay, yeah, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that part out, but maybe if you gave him help, that would help.
It's the exact same thing as saying Giannis is choking in the playoffs every year when George Hill and Eric Bledsoe just refuse to pass him the ball. Like, it's not Giannis. Giannis can't choke if you don't give him the ball to choke. Like, and Wilt, when you look at it, Wilt did his role.
Mm-hmm.
He can't play all 5. It's a team game. You can't play all 5 people. You can't be all 5 people at once.
Yeah. And the other thing with Wilt that I will admit for him is he is so much like Giannis. If you watch the actual footage of Wilt, Giannis is the only modern player that you can compare it to. So I'll leave that there. I feel like we've talked enough.
I think that's fair. Wilt's awesome.
All right. So here at number 8, we have the other side of our biggest difference in opinion The biggest space between anybody. We
Oh, is
have
this where
here at
Jonathan
8.
Brady-
No,
Wow.
no. So
You really overrate the team. So,
The
So-
fact that you have Julius over Hakeem should get you banned.
okay, first off, Julius Erving has 4 MVPs. How many does Hakeem have? 1? Yeah, that's why.
Lesser league.
Julius Erving has 3 championships.
How many of those are NBA championships?
1, but let's ask how many ABA championships did Hakeem win? Exactly, none. And how many college championships? Also none. So look, Hakeem was known for losing until the 1 year that Michael Jordan decided that he was like going to leave the league, and then he was like, "Ooh, I'll capitalize on this." And then Michael Jordan came back, and Hakeem probably wasn't going to win that championship, but instead Michael Jordan was like, "Ooh, I'm going to still choke anyway because I want to give Hakeem one more chance." So that being said, we've got Julius Erving here. I will fully admit I just bought a Julius Erving jersey last night. It is a Nets jersey because it looks awesome. Now, that being said, Dr. J was incredible. The thing I want to focus on for this is Julius Erving is the first non-big to win an MVP since Oscar Robinson. It's almost 18 years between the two of them. Here's the thing. It was almost illegal for a wing to win MVP. Julius Erving is the first wing to ever win MVP. You are either a guard or a big. Julius Erving won an MVP. He also is extremely underrated for all the different things that he did overall for his total career because the NBA does not keep ABA statistics and count them. Now, I get that they probably should be weighted a little bit, but Julius Erving retired as number 5 in blocked shots total. Julius Erving was an incredible athlete and was the second best player of his era. I will give you that. But also the best player of his era was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who, when we get to the end of this list, you'll see why I don't dock him for that.
So my only arguments with this is I feel like you're extremely overvaluing the ABA statistics. Again, I don't think anyone should have think anyone should have Julius below 20. Like there's no excuse to have him below 20. I just don't think having him top 10 is correct at all.
Okay. I do want to, before we move on for Julius Erving, I do want to, every time we talk about him, I want to point out how sad it is that his career was not better than it could have been. This is probably one of the worst outcomes for the entirety of Dr. J's career. And I will explain that by explaining all the different times that he should have been on a super team that didn't happen. First of all, the doctor agreed to go straight to the NBA. If he would have done that instead of going to the ABA, he would have paired with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robinson, and Bob Dandridge the year after they won the finals. I have a feeling that would have helped. Secondly, the NBA, and more accurately the Hawks and Bucks, should have come to an agreement to allow Dr. J to pair with Walt Bellamy, Bill Bridges, Lou Hudson, and Pistol Pete Maravich in actual games other than just the amazing preseason spectacular that they kept finding the Hawks for. And they fined the Hawks so much money that Dr. J eventually was forced to go back to the ABA because he didn't want to play for the Bucks and he didn't want to play with Kareem for some unknown reason. And so he went back and he played there. Actually, the U.S. government also said he had to finish out his ABA contract because the Supreme Court was weighing in on that because that was weird. So there's that. That's absolutely crazy. Thirdly, look, Knicks fans, this is going to sting. Okay, so we're just going to rip off the Band-Aid. The New York Knicks did the dumbest thing ever, and that's saying a lot because I'm talking about the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks did the dumbest thing ever, and they did not accept the Nets' offer of literally all they asked was that the New York Knicks did not make the Nets pay the $2 million entry fee to play in their market. And in exchange, they would give them Dr. J. The Knicks decided that $2 million was more important than a free Dr. J. And they could have paired Dr. J with Earl Monroe, Willis Reed, Spencer Haywood, and Walt Frazier, as well as they could have also had Bob McAdoo.
Oh my goodness.
And they also would have had Bill Bradley. That would have made Dr. J the 7th Hall of Famer on that team. But Nick's
So,
going to...
but-
Lastly, there's still one more.
Okay.
Lastly,
Grief.
when Dr. J was very young, the Squires had a team of Charlie Scott, who's a Hall of Fame guard, George Gervin, a Hall of Fame guard, and Dr. J. Instead, because they could not sell out games, because I don't have any clue why they were not selling out games, the Squires
'Cause they were
decided
in
to trade
Virginia.
all 3 of them.
So
I wonder why the Squires didn't become one of the teams that merged with the NBA.
So one thing I will say, and you mentioned it early on in your list, Jonathan, that you do value impact on the league mightily.
Yeah.
And whether you value those ABA stats or not, and you kind of even hint it on your head when you put Kobe above Shaq. What do kids today still do? Kids today who've never seen Kobe know you're supposed, whenever you take a fadeaway into the trash can, you say Kobe. Now, they may not say Dr. J, but how many dunks were invented or attributed to Dr. J that people still want to do today?
Yes.
The guy revolution. No Dr. J, there's no dunk contest.
Also, without Dr. J, I don't think the NBA survives. Because
There's-
Dr. J is the whole reason that the NBA decides they will accept the NBA merger.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to have him anywhere between 8 and 15.
Oh, I have him 8.
I think that's fair. Except I disagree with some of the people you have below him.
And well, and I mean in that same thing again. And I love,
Like I said, there's a razor thin margin in these things.
we're getting close, and I'm not trying to take a stance here on the.
Mhm.
I agree with. I believe that Hakeem at 12 is way low. But that being said, there are kids today who play NBA 2K, get Legends cards, see Dr. J play, and they want to be like Dr. J.
Mhm.
I don't know of too many kids today who get Hakeem Olajuwon cards and say, you know what, I want to be Hakeem.
I don't know. Hakeem's cards are way better than Dr. J's in 2K, but it's just
That's because the 2K
it's
system
just because the
is
2K
weird,
system values you being tall a lot.
But you understand what I'm saying. Hakeem is the best at a boring position, or best at doing the boring stuff. Whereas Dr. J, he may have been less of a player, but he was really, really good at doing really, really fun and exciting stuff.
All right,
So
so
that's just my thought on that. So the next bit, you have him at 8, and Jordan has him at 7. So you both can go ahead and go.
Larry Bird. Larry Bird. I mean,
Do you want me to just read my profile?
I'm not gonna disagree with anything you say about Larry.
Okay.
I think.
Larry Legend was a fantastic player. First off, I want to address the morons who say that Bird could not play in today's NBA.
Oh, that's stupid.
Look, if Luka Doncic is an all-NBA player, the Hick from French Lick would be an MVP. Bird was the single greatest basketball mind to ever play the sport. He was a chess grandmaster, manipulating the defense and his own teammates into the perfect positions for him to control the game. He knew how to kill the momentum of a game with a dagger 3, how to fake even the greatest players with a pass or a pump fake, and how to out-hustle anyone on a court at any moment. Bird was a fantastic leader and probably the best all-around player ever. The only thing keeping Bird lower on this list is how short his career was. Larry Bird was the first of 7 players that I will hear an argument about whether or not this person is the GOAT. His argument, I admit, is the weakest, but I will still hear it.
My only reasoning that I don't have Bird any higher is it goes back to his team was so much more stacked than everyone else in the 80s.
Were they stacked, or was Bird better? Because that's my argument, is that if you take Kevin McHale and put him on another team, I don't think he's actually better than Robert Parrish, first off. If you take Kevin McHale out and put him on his own team, he's not going to have as many accolades. He's going to end up being a black hole, and he's going to end up not being the best player on the team as well. Parrish, I think, is a little bit more easy to fit in just because of personality-wise.
Okay, you're just talking about 3 people. There's like,
I'm getting there. If you take, you're counting, like Bill Walton. Bill Walton was like ancient and decrepit and had like 14 foot surgeries. Like, I don't think that you really can count Walton as being that much better than everybody else. You do have Gus Johnson. Gus Johnson's fantastic. He is in my top 100, and so is
Gus. I think you mean Dennis.
Sorry, yes, Dennis Johnson.
Wrong guy from the Sonics.
Yes, Ron Johnson from the Sonics championship. Yes, Dennis Johnson, fantastic defender, but he at that point in his career was not a world ender. He was not at his peak. And the same thing you have is you have Tiny Archibald. People used that argument too, that he had Tiny Archibald. He had Tiny Archibald after an Achilles surgery. Like, Tiny was not the same person after an Achilles surgery. Now, he still didn't make an all-star team. I think he made 2, actually. So he did fantastic, and he did come back from that. But he had an Achilles surgery. That's not the same Tiny Archibald. Bird is the reason that all of those people are better. Also, look at his coaches. He doesn't have these amazing coaches. He has Casey Jones, who is good, but he's not, like, amazing.
Yeah, but Red Auerbach was running the team still.
He's the GM, but, it's not him coaching.
You've yet to mention guys like Cedric Maxwell. You've yet to mention guys. I mean, those teams were so stacked in a salary-capped league where there is player movement and players are directly rewarded by their accolades on how much percentage they can take up of the cap. You would never get that many players on the same team.
You guys like basically have him in the same spot, right?
No, I'm just saying this is the reason. This is the only reasoning I pull him a little bit further back is because he got so much help. It holds. And again, right now we're at the point where we're splitting some hairs, some serious hairs.
So speaking of splitting hairs, speaking of splitting hairs, we're gonna go This is the highest differentiate that your number 7, Jonathan, is the highest different value or different level of someone you both have in the top 10.
Okay.
So you go ahead and give us your number 7.
Is Bill Russell.
You have Bill Russell below Hakeem?
Yes, for the same reasoning as Larry Bird. Bill Russell had like 85 guys that played with him that are probably in the top 200 of most successful people in the history of basketball.
I'm sorry that John Thompson was so good of a player.
No, but look at it. Look, everyone who played with Bill Russell, it feels like, was a Hall of Famer. You have you have from Bob Cousy all the way to Tommy Heinsohn to I mean, just everyone that was playing there. And then even
everyone
after
who you can't name.
No, even after he left, Hondo is leading them to championships. Even after, like, the Celtics never even fall off after Russell leaves because there was so many good people there.
They do fall off, actually. They fall off for a little bit. And that's a kind of a little bit of a misnomer. They fall off for a few years. It does take Dave Cowens has to come in and replace what Bill Russell brought because their team was built around them being the perfect defense. Bill Russell is the best defender of all time. There is no statistic that proves anything differently. Bill Russell is the number. Well, actually, I will wait until we get to my.
Win shares will every time say that it is probably Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace is very good. I believe win shares do say that. I'm welcome to be wrong because I'm not sure win shares go back that far.
All right. So,
but I do feel like that Bill Russell is less than that. Nope, that's fair. That's fair. What is it? Win shares or is it?
Bill Russell.
Oh no, it's defensive rating. My bad.
Bill
So
Russell, 1 through 6.
Yes,
He's number 9.
yes.
He is 12 and 15 and 19
Yes. Now, granted, he did very good. It is, but at the same time, is Bill Russell going to play enough offense to win you a championship if you don't have killer offensive people beside him?
So, hang on. Because wait, stop. We've got one. He's got his Bill Russell point coming up here, so we can go back to that debate. So number 6, if we combine your differences at number 6 is the biggest gap.
Okay.
Because you have your number 6, Jordan, is ranked below Jonathan's number 6, and Jonathan's number 6 is way higher than you have this guy.
Okay.
So there's you could argue, I think maybe I mess up here. This is like an 8-point difference of opinion here.
So go ahead with your number 6.
Why don't you go ahead? Because I'm assuming it's
My number 6 is Hakeem.
okay.
And here's my reasoning for Hakeem.
You've been defending your reasoning for Hakeem with every player that we've done.
All right, but here's my last thing.
Since 12.
Here's my last thing. Hakeem is the only player in NBA history to win a championship and not have at least one other person at some point in their career that has at least been voted on for the Hall of Fame. The best player, the best career of a player on that 94 Rockets team, other than Hakeem, was Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell made one All-NBA third team.
Okay, so my argument for that though is Bill Walton.
Yeah, Bill Walton also had oh my goodness, the power forward that is
Lucas?
Maurice Lucas. Maurice Lucas.
Eh. I think Cassell's better than Maurice Lucas.
Oh my goodness. The numbers do not bear that out.
Stop. That's not the conversation.
The numbers do not bear that out. Oh my. If Sam Cassell is better than Maurice Lucas. Oh
And
my.
I even count ABA stuff. I think Cassell
No.
is better than Maurice Lucas. But
No. No, hard pass. I watched enough Cassell that I don't believe that one bit. No offense, Sam Cassell. But maybe mild offense, Sam Cassell. Hakeem did that. Hakeem is one of until actually no, Hakeem's the only player to have won Finals MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year within a 2-year span.
yeah, within a 2
Two-year
yeah.
span. He's the only one to have done it. Hakeem's an Olympic gold medal champion. Hakeem is.
Well, I don't count the Olympics in this ranking, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, Hakeem is the first international superstar to have massive success.
International superstar who changed his citizenship to American citizenship.
Okay, he's the first person who didn't go to high school in America to have national success.
I'll say this, and maybe you guys, I mean, having grown up there, but I remember I'm going to give you the at least the kid in the American kid growing up perspective of Hakeem and his. He was cool. It wasn't something. It was a cool side story, but we didn't really, at least me, I didn't really see him as the foreign guy. Like, no, he's the cool story. Okay, cool. Then he comes through just because of the thing. I don't see him in the same way that I know I look at guys like Giannis today, or where it was that it felt like that was his, and maybe it's just
there is no. Let me put it this way. There is no Dirk Nowitzki without Hakeem. There is no Giannis without Hakeem. There is no, and when you look at the historical importance of Hakeem, Hakeem has to be I will entertain him anywhere. I can't put him top 5. I can't. But I will entertain him anywhere between 6 and 10. Anything lower than 10 is unacceptable.
And I think it's anywhere between 7 and 12. So
Okay.
we're a lot.
Like again, your margins at this point are so razor thin.
We're all with you on that. I think there will be. I think I think the cultural difference between bringing a guy out of Africa and the American influence to bring a guy out of Africa, there's a lot more there versus it's completely different than pulling someone out of a league in Europe. I think that's a complete that's apples to say that there wouldn't be the foreign influence. No, like that's a completely different monster. Recruiting a guy from
there's no Joel Embiid.
recruiting a guy from
There's no
Dikembe Mutombo. There's
Mutombo,
there's no
Moutier.
your South American players are not going to come over without.
That group. Like, no, I mean, Europe, just, the socioeconomics of it. Europe always had money, where if you're an athlete, you're going to get seen as an athlete. You're going to get discovered as an athlete. You're going to get the best training as an athlete. And someone from somewhere is going to see you in a scouting tape and get you over.
By the way, if we're talking about dragging sorry butts somewhere, Hakeem had a 50-point, 40-rebound, 8-block game
and lost
in the playoffs and lost. If we're going to talk about being let down by your teammates.
I do want to argue, though, with you saying that he had no help, especially at that point in his career. Robert Horry is underrated at that point in his career. He gets way overrated by the fact that he just, clings on to Duncan and Kobe's coattails and gets a few more rings. But
a few more?
Okay, a lot more rings. A lot more rings. So he gets overrated by the end of his career just from the ring count. But at that time, Robert Horry was incredible. If you watch some of those games from the championships, Robert Horry is doing modern stretch four things in the 90s.
Okay, so we do need to move on. So speaking of the guy that dragged him to championships, go ahead and both of you say who you have at 5. Ready? 1.
I didn't do my 6 yet.
Yeah,
you didn't 6 yet? Oh, yeah, that's right.
This is where I have Irvin Johnson.
I have him a little higher than you do.
The only reason that I don't have him higher is, again, the longevity. I did doc for the longevity. If Magic could have played through if we knew what we did today about HIV, Magic's career would be about 5 or 6 years longer. I just feel like Magic was a lot longer. Magic and Bird retiring the same year is super weird, especially when you realize how much younger Magic is than Bird. Because even though they come into the league at the same time, Magic's
3 years younger than him.
Is 4, I think. I think he's actually 4 years younger than him. And so it's a big deal because Bird went to Indiana,
right.
And then he backed out and then went to Indiana State, so he had to sit out a year.
Yeah.
And
they got drafted,
and then Magic came in early too. So it's very different with Magic. His career could have been so much longer. I do dock it a little bit. But that being said, Magic in his prime, if I was just ranking primes, Magic is probably 2 from even 1. I could make an argument that his prime is number 1. He is top 3 for me in prime, but his whole career, if I'm taking the whole career, I have to drop it to 6.
I can give you I have a feeling you're not going to argue much with me with Magic at 4.
Yeah.
Which is where I've got him. Magic he hits every box you want to talk about this. Statistical numbers, championship relevance, he's impact on the game, impact on popular culture. There's not a single thing you can knock Magic for. It's just you can say, I probably think this person X, Y, and Z are maybe better. There's no holes that you can legitimately poke in the "Hey, Magic was awesome" argument.
Yeah.
What I'll get you, and this is why I have to have him in my top 5, is my top 5 are all guys that you kind of hinted on it a little bit. You started it early, but I just don't really think it can start earlier. If someone brings up an argument that, hey, I believe this guy is the best player in NBA history, arguments that I'll entertain, that guy's got to be in your top 5.
I think
And
there's
that-
5 people from
And
that.
I
Problem
absolutely
is there are
argue-
7 people in that discussion.
I absolutely will entertain an argument for that. Within lists, I mean, what we're hitting there. I mean, I guess I'll hit it. I'll tell you who I would move out of, who I don't think I would. I would maybe listen, but at the end of it, when you walked away, I would look at anyone else who was still around and say, "Man, that guy was dumb having this person as the best in the league." We'll get to who you thought there. You got one guy, Jordan, in your top 5 who I would put lower because I don't consider him
I don't know.
that great, that kind of thing. But we can really go easy on 5 because go ahead and say your number 5.
Tim
Tim
Duncan.
Duncan.
Tim Duncan. There's
I mean, the only knock you can have on Tim Duncan's career is he didn't win back-to-back championships. That's it.
I do want to point out, so I'll just read this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Big Fundamental has the same amount of all NBA awards as seasons that Michael Jordan played, even if you count his Wizard years. Duncan is the reason Kobe was never the best player in the league. He is the reason that Dirk, KG, T-Mac, and Nash have such little playoff success. In all my years watching the NBA, nothing has been more apparent than Tim Duncan was the best teammate to ever play in the NBA. He has his perfect bank shot, his masterful post moves, his defense that should have earned him 3 DPOYs instead of none, his clutch rebounding, his crisp passing, his little things like picks and directing the defense. Tim Duncan was not flashy. He showed very little emotion except for that goofy surprise face when he was called for a foul.
Oh,
Yet, Tim Duncan showed up to play. He sacrificed for his team and to win. Timmy should have more MVPs. Nash, AI, and 2 more because of Nash and AI. 2 more finals MVPs. Parker was good, but he was not that good. Was not better than Timmy. And Kawhi only got it for holding LeBron to 28, 8, and 4. Even with all of the Hall of Famers Duncan played with, Robinson, Manu, Parker, Kawhi, McGrady, Aldrich, it was always his team. And Tim Duncan is a GOAT.
You want to talk about the Spurs way and all of those things. It all began and ends with Tim Duncan. Look at how it fell apart as soon as Tim Duncan retired.
Mm-hmm.
It fell apart.
Yep.
And it fell apart bad. Was not even close. Like it went from every year. It was when we're talking about championships, got to mention the Spurs, got to mention the Spurs, got to mention the Spurs, to man, they're an 8 seed again. Man, they're an 8 seed again. Man, they're an 8 seed again, and now they've missed the playoffs.
Yep.
It is Tim Duncan.
Yep.
Tim Duncan, in my opinion, was more important than Bill Russell. In my opinion, Tim Duncan's accolades are more impressive than Bill Russell's because Bill Russell played against 8 teams for some of his career. There were 8 teams in the league for some of his career.
Okay. I believe that my next one is defending Bill Russell, since you brought up Bill Russell.
Okay.
But before you get there, I will add a little. I might add some more comments here to these picks. But Tim Duncan will always be one of my favorite players. But just because, as I've mentioned other times on pods, I will always love players who know their place as a basketball player and are first and foremost a basketball player, not a superstar. This was a guy who had no problem sharing spotlight.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest mark when people consider him that comes against him is that he didn't care about getting spotlight. He was a fun, entertaining, but no, he didn't care. He didn't demand. He didn't scream, "Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me." Now, whether that was who he was or whether that was an extension of learning under Pop, whichever we want to go there, or those two just matched up perfectly.
Well, no one develops in a bubble. No one's a bubble.
Yeah, like it's but those two, I think, just either way, those two match so perfectly. But it's also noting that I think towards the end of the career, when Duncan was coming out, that's when Pop started behaving like a different Pop.
Mm-hmm.
Like the annoying. He started to become the annoying Pop.
Yeah.
He started to become the annoying. No, I'm deliberately not talking to you when you ask me legitimate questions. No, I'm going to deliberately make you that. Old Pop didn't used to make reporters feel dumb. He just didn't answer a question. Like, he just didn't make things about himself. He wasn't about making people feel dumb. And that was always the thing. That was the thing with Duncan, is Duncan didn't care about those individual things.
Yeah.
Which is what I think it hurts him in most rankings. But he's totally one of the best. Another mark against him, you guys kind of hinted at it, of mark against people is who all you played for. Well, at any given moment, he had how many other All-Stars on his team, or could have been All-Stars, or how many other All-NBA great players on his team?
I'm sorry, but when we're in this top 5, there's not a single person in this top 5 that you can't
Make that argument
with. Though.
But I'm just saying, that's just the thing. Like, he's got them just constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd argue he actually has worse teammates than
anyone
Michael
else
Jordan.
in my top 5.
Yeah.
Anyone else in my top 5, I think Tim Duncan's probably got worse teammates than.
Anyway,
So
go ahead.
now I'll go with my Bill Russell rebuttal that you've made me wait for so long.
2 picks.
William Fenton Russell was the best defender in the history of basketball. I'm not a huge advanced stats guy, but Bill Russell is first in defensive win shares by over 27. That is the difference between number 2, Tim Duncan, and number 11, Artis Gilmore. There has never been a defender as singularly capable of ending the other team. Red Auerbach used to make him sit out of practices just so his team could work on offense. We don't have blocks or steal numbers from that time, but we do have footage of him having several 20-plus block performance games. Russell was the ultimate competitor, the original GOAT. No one could match him in the ability to lead teams to titles. Watching his defense, you just know it would translate to today. His athleticism was off the charts. A reported max reach of 14 feet. Russell could actually kick the net. The American Olympic Committee made Bill Russell choose between high jump or basketball, even though he had the best jumps in the qualifying events. He would have ranked 7 in the world that year. His times and hurdles would have won the Olympics. We are talking about someone taller than Dwight Howard, who is an Olympic-level sprinter and high jumper. Add to that his incredible timing and instincts, and you have the greatest defender in history. That's my argument for Bill Russell.
I mean, again, you're talking top 7, 8 players. It's all good. It's all good. We can have some different arguments and all that, but you're splitting hairs. Anything for this top 7, 8. I feel like my top 3 are clear cut above the rest, but anything between 4 and 10, I'm not going to be too upset about.
I think Russell is that 4th where I cut off. That's where I feel like there's a cutoff at 4, and then you go from 5 to 7. I feel like there's another cutoff at 7.
You see, and I feel like I prefer for Magic to be my 4. At 4, but
that's fine.
But for the whole,
I can see that argument.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of Magic at 4,
that's who I have at 4.
I'm not going to argue too much.
And we've talked a lot about Magic. Magic's awesome. I don't think we need to talk much more about that. This is the top 3 is the most where when someone says, "Oh, this person was the best of all time," if you're not talking about one of these 3, I question you.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really question you if you're not talking about one of these 3 guys.
If you've got an argument other than for Magic Johnson, I'll entertain an argument as long as you got your argument as other than who's the greatest Laker of all time. If that's your argument, okay, cool, get out. Like,
Yeah,
I'll acknowledge you. But if you actually have another argument, I will. And then Duncan, I will also. That's also kind of comes to the thing of, no, I think we are just naturally inclined to downplay Duncan
yeah.
because
I honestly think
outplay himself.
like the very fact that we're discussing Duncan as a top 5 player of all time, I think it ticks Duncan off. Like, I think he's like, oh, shit, I could have passed more. Like, I honestly think that's how his personality thinks about that.
If you're watching this, Tim, the reason I put you up there is because you did pass that well and you made other teammates that much. The fact that neither one of these guys in their top list have Stockton on their list bugs me. Stockton
I have-
is exactly what a point guard should be.
I feel like I have Stockton top 30, 35. Yeah, I have
But,
34.
but yes, so Tim, if you are watching, passing the ball more would have only made me rank you higher. So just so you know.
So who do you want to start with 3?
All right. So I can tell you, so we can all guess who these 3 are. Neither one of you have any of these guys in the same position.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's awesome.
You have a different. You have the same top 3. Don't worry, but you each have them positioned differently. So,
Jonathan.
all right. So actually, what do you guys think? We should have discussed this before we started recording, but we're just going to ask this now. Would you rather continue what we've been doing and go 3-3-2-2-1-1, or would you rather? And I'll give you 5 minutes apiece to defend your top 3 as an entirety.
Let's go 5 minutes apiece to defend the top 3 as an entirety. I like
Okay.
that, and I'll just read
Okay.
my different.
So yeah, all right. So yeah, I kind of like that just because.
No, go ahead with your written
All right.
because I'm probably
So-
going to agree with you more
yeah.
than I disagree.
Okay.
And
Top 3 in its entirety. So go. I mean, you give us them in 3-2-1, but top 3 in its entirety. Go.
So my number 3, I have LeBron James. He's a 6'9" point forward for the Cavs, the Heat, and now the Lakers. 3-time champion, 3-time Finals MVP, 4-time MVP, 6-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, or 16-time All-Star, 16-time All-NBA, 6 All-Defensive Team. He has a scoring title and an assist title, Rookie of the Year. His prime stats were 28, 8, and 7 with 2 steals and a block. LeBron should have one more MVP, Derrick Rose. He should have one more Defensive Player of the Year, Marc Gasol, and another ring, 2011. But voters and a Dwayne Wade freeze-out have kept that from happening. Still, LeBron has 3 rings, which is one more than the amount of times that Michael Jordan quit in his prime. And he had more All-NBAs than anyone else. His overall statistical brilliance is really hard to match. His finals performances in 2011, freeze-out aside, are incredible. No one can do the things that LeBron can. His biggest thing is his durability. King James spends over $1 million a year on his body. Wilt Chamberlain's career earnings adjusted for inflation were $1.7 million. That dedication shows by LeBron having made the final as his team's best player 9 times so far over 12 years. Larry Bird played 13 seasons. LeBron is the one player active right now who does have a shot at eventually becoming the GOAT. And my number 2 pick, this is where I think it gets a little weird. This is where
Condense it a little bit if you can.
Okay. Number 2, I have Michael Jordan. So I'm just going to skip over his career accolades and all that stuff. Michael Jeffrey Jordan had from 90 to 93 the single most impressive run in NBA history. No one can compare to that. After the Last Dance, a piece of propaganda that makes Mein Kampf look fair and balanced, I am not sure that I can add anything that has not already been said about MJ. I have only one knock on the ultimate competitor. Air Jordan quit twice in his prime. His Royal Airness in 93 was at the top of the world, finishing the single greatest achievement in league history. And then he quit. Personally, I wanted to believe he was suspended, but everyone involved has always denied it. But I am left with only one answer. The GOAT quit. Then in 98, he did it again. At the age of 34, still in his prime, he quit again. It's not crazy to say that Michael Jordan was not near as good as he could have been. Some people automatically give him those Rockets titles. I don't. MJ was a quitter, and it defines his legacy for me. He's still the second greatest player of all time. He still has the greatest prime that we will probably ever see. But Michael Jordan left a lot on the table. And lastly, I have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Ferdinand Luis Alcindor Jr. has the best resume in the NBA history. If not for the media lying about him in college and therefore damaging his relationship with the eventual Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he probably has 8 to 10 MVPs. Kareem was that good. He earned 4 Finals MVPs, even though he only got 2. His MVPs are farther apart than than Michael Jordan's entire first stint with the Bulls. Before, as you know by now, MJ quit. He is the all-time leader in point, and he used his incredible soft touch to master the hook shot and become deadly efficient. His amazing ability to score should have made him the most beloved athlete of all time. His winning impacted the league in a variety of ways. Kareem had the ability to lead a team to championships 17 years apart as at least a top 2 guy. Shaq's entire career was 18 years. My top 8 of my top 10 all have people arguing for them to be GOAT and win. But Kareem seems to be the one that people forget about a lot. To me, the greatest of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
My order is actually going to be significantly different. I have Kareem at 3, and I have LeBron at 2, and Michael at 1. And it boils down to a cultural effect. And this is where I let cultural effect probably hit more. I know with Iverson, it probably jumped him 30 spots, but that's more for story. But this is for these guys are the closest, so I need a tiebreaker. It's these 3 are the closest, and I need a tiebreaker. So I have Kareem at 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have LeBron being the prep to pro. He's the first person in sports that I remember people being like, this is the next best player ever, and him not completely sucking.
We're looking at you, Andrew Wiggins.
I mean,
We're looking at a lot of people.
we're looking at Darvin Ham. We're looking at We're looking at a guy I just dropped from my fantasy league, Justin Herbert. I mean, we're looking at a lot of.
Let's be honest. If we're gonna just go NBA, there's a reason. I mean, the 1 year sit out. There's a reason that rule went in place.
Right.
2 teams screwed their future by drafting high school players, and the NBA realized they needed to fix it. The one and done, like, there's a reason why that became. We can agree whether or not it should be or not. No, it happened for a reason, and the reason wasn't exact. It was a selfish reason, but like it was for the betterment of the league reason.
And of high schoolers drafted number 1, Dwight and LeBron are it that didn't flame out.
Drafted number 1, yeah, for sure.
Drafted number 1.
I mean, there's
you've got a bunch of other guys that were even drafted in the lottery, like Kobe and Garnett, that are fine.
Moses Malone.
But of high school guys drafted number 1,
T-Mac.
yeah.
Jermaine O'Neal.
And LeBron is just really good.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, LeBron, you've proven your whole career you're just chasing Jordan's coattails.
I agree.
You have proven your whole career. Even now, you're making your own Space Jam to try to chase Jordan's coattails. Even with all of this.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being the second best ever, but the fact that you refuse to accept that is probably why you're the second best ever and not the 50th best ever. So
That's fair.
I mean, LeBron has done a great job, but Michael Jordan is the biggest cultural icon in sports history.
Yep.
There is no argument to be entertained for greatest of all time for any sport that does not have to go through LeBron. And I know Ben is looking at me weird because he is thinking Wayne Gretzky and because he is angrily thinking Wayne Gretzky. But when your sport does not even have its playoff games on national TV, doesn't count. And so
That's not good. We're not having this argument, but they're contemporaries, and as contemporaries.
Mhm.
And remember, at the time, the NHL was almost as big as the NBA. It's still Gretzky. Like Gretzky. Okay, the fact that you guys here have a legitimate different list. Why is it Gretzky? You guys have a legitimate different list, and that's okay. If anyone in hockey, unless they overvalue goalie, for most lists that I'll see, you put goalies either on a different list unless you overvalue goalie and say, the number one player's got to be a goalie. If anyone has anyone other than Wayne Gretzky as one, they are laughed and kicked out of a room.
See, I didn't know until today that the scoring title for hockey counted like goals and assists. I didn't know that until today. So
scoring. Well, so no, but here, that's the thing is the years when Gretzky set the number, like that's how great his scoring seasons were, is he led the league and set untouchable records in goals and assists that same year.
Yeah.
Like that same. So like
the Gretzky brothers have to be the two best, brothers in sports, just to derail this a little bit. And Wayne Gretzky has like 4 billion goals and his brother has like 3. So, and they're the two highest scoring brothers in all of hockey.
Yeah.
So that just shows how, Gretzky was really good, but it's not a sport on the same level as the NBA in cultural consciousness. And there is no argument that you can make that hockey is the same level as the NBA in cultural consciousness. Thereby, now 50 years ago, it would be flipped. 50 years ago, it would be flipped. But that's it. Michael Jordan is the best, is the most dominant athlete of all time.
And I think Michael Jordan's prime is the most dominant prime ever. But there is a longevity problem that he has.
All right,
when
Kareem buys a team, with underwear money, then
okay, but marketing and endorsement deals were different, and that's where we're actually gonna. That's
the big deal with Jordan. Jordan made his own shoe company.
Yeah,
Jordan
like if
is totally different.
There's no athlete that's ever going to touch that.
Well, the world he played, and I think this is the thing for a couple guys, and I mentioned it kind of as a Dirk. One of my marks against Dirk is I think that they were lucky enough to be in the exact right position in the exact right time. It was you're going to say a chicken or the egg thing. No, they were lucky enough to be in that right spot. Jordan arrived at a time when shoe companies were realizing that I can make $1 billion, which I don't think that was that wasn't in someone's mindset in those early, in the 70s. That wasn't a concept of, hey, I'm going to pay this NBA player stupid amounts of money to market a shoe. Like that wasn't even a thought and consideration. Where it was coming out of the 80s, the early 80s, that the Wall Street, the Wolf of Wall Street, great is good, that kind of a things where you have business executives saying, wait, I can use this guy to make even more money for myself.
Yeah.
That's when that really kind of came across. But my big one that I want to get on, just Kareem, that I'll add there. My favorite basketball personality, not player, but my favorite basketball personality of all time, had his opinion on who the GOAT was. And I'm pretty sure John Wooden picked the player that he coached. And I'm not going to say John Wooden was right about everything he ever said about basketball, but I'm also never going to disagree with John Wooden about anything about basketball.
I will end this talking about John Wooden. And I just want to end on a random fact about basketball, and we'll end the podcast on this random fact. John Wooden is not a Hall of Fame coach. John Wooden made the Hall of Fame as a player, and they never updated it as a coach.
Which is the dumbest thing of all time.
We should not accept the Naismith Hall of Fame. And with that, good night, and we will see you later.